I consider this a betrayal. Mr. Calhoun's voice thundered across the sleek glass desk, slicing through the morning stillness of the 34th floor corner office. I sat frozen, stunned, gripping my briefcase like a lifeline as the CEO of Lyncrest Media Group in Austin, Texas, glared at me with an expression so cold it could have cracked concrete. I'd only been in the room for 30 seconds, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a blade. "After all we've done for you, Owen, this is how you repay us?" He snapped, waving a printed email like an arrest warrant. I didn't even get a chance to respond before he slammed it on the desk. "You took a sick day last Thursday. Turns out it was for an interview with Halcyon Digital." My heart punched against my ribs. He knew. Somehow, he knew. I'm Owen Mercer, 36, and I've been the face of Lyncrest's client success division for the past 8 years. I built partnerships from scratch, expanded key accounts, and was passed over for raises 4 years in a row because, as they always said, it just wasn't in the budget. Now, ambition had become a crime. Your access has been revoked. Security will escort you to your desk. And just like that, the elevator back to reality dropped fast. The weight of what just happened didn't crash all at once. It dripped in, slowly, like water leaking through a ceiling after a storm. I stood up, stunned but steady, brushing invisible dust from my blazer like I hadn't just been gutted professionally. Mr. Calhoun slid my security badge across the desk without eye contact. "It has disabled your email. HR will process your exit by noon." His tone was robotic, like reading from a pre-written termination script. I nodded once. No fight, no outburst. Just a quiet, "Understood." He blinked. Maybe he'd expected begging or rage. Instead, I extended my hand not for him, but for myself. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said calmly. My dignity would be the last thing I'd let him take. Escorted to my workspace by a junior security officer who looked more awkward than authoritative, I cleared my desk. I'd kept family photos, a signed client thank you card, 2 coffee mugs, and a small succulent alive longer than most of my friendships. All of it went into a cardboard box labeled "Files," now repurposed for something far more personal. Coworkers peeked up from their screens, some with worry, others avoiding eye contact entirely. I forced a smile and nodded gently. No one needed a scene. This wasn't a movie. It was real life, and I'd be damned if I gave them the satisfaction of watching me crumble. As I stepped into the sunlight outside Lyncrest's glass facade, box in arms, a soft breeze brushed past me, warm and unfamiliar. I'd walked into that building as a loyal employee. I was walking out of a man unshackled. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message preview lit up the screen. "Can you meet today at 2 p.m.? Halcyon Digital." I exhaled. So this is what freedom tastes like. As I drove away from Lyncrest with a cardboard box riding shotgun, I couldn't help but think, it's funny how nearly a decade of your life can be reduced to a few pounds of personal belongings. I hadn't always been Owen Mercer, Director of Strategic Accounts. I started at Lyncrest right after grad school MBA. Still fresh, ambition even fresher, taking a junior role to get in the door. Back then, my job was glorified admin work, updating spreadsheets, setting up client calls, and grabbing lunch orders when meetings ran long. I didn't complain. I showed up early. I stayed late. I took on the grunt work no one else wanted to prove I could do more. By year 2, I was quietly managing mid-tier clients, the accounts others ignored because they were too needy or low ROI. But I listened. I solved problems. I returned every call and every email, always within the hour. Then came Cobalt Securities, the whale client. When their liaison dropped the ball during a crucial campaign launch, I volunteered to clean up the mess. What was supposed to be a 1-week patch turned into a complete transition. 3 weeks later, Cobalt tripled its spending and asked for me by name. That was my moment. Suddenly, I wasn't just Owen in accounts. I was the guy who saved a $12 million client relationship. I walked into my first salary review that year with slides, charts, and performance metrics proof in hand. But CFO Camille Ronan smiled at me so polished it could cut glass. "It's just not in the budget this quarter," she'd said, sipping from a mug that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. The following year, I brought in 2 new major tech clients and led the integration of a new CRM system that increased team efficiency by 28%. I asked again. "We're prioritizing system upgrades this year," they said. "Your efforts are noted, though." The third request came after I received the Apex Marketing Award for leading the highest performing digital campaign in our firm's history. I didn't even get a meeting. This is just a forwarded memo reminding us to remain team-oriented during lean times. Meanwhile, the exec team moved into custom-renovated offices, threw a $150,000 New Year's party, and upgraded their company cars to electric luxury sedans. By the fourth rejection, something in me cracked. Not out of spite, but out of clarity. I updated my resume that night for the first time in nearly 8 years. I didn't even tell anyone, because sometimes the most radical act of self-respect is done in silence. Back in my apartment, the silence was deafening, the kind that doesn't comfort but reminds you that something has ended. I set the cardboard box on the kitchen counter, like it weighed more than it did. I stared at it for a long moment, not because of what was inside, but because of what it represented, the death of an illusion. I wasn't on vacation. I wasn't between meetings. I was unemployed. The word clawed into my chest, pressing down with a weight I didn't expect. The years I gave, the nights I stayed late, the holidays I worked through. All dismissed in a single morning by a man who didn't even bother to ask why. My phone lit up when I heard a call from Leah, my best friend since undergrad. "I just heard," she said the moment I answered. "Gabe told me he's in IT, remember? Are you okay?" I paused, then told the truth. "I'm not sure." Leah didn't miss a beat. "This is outrageous. You've carried that department for years. Everyone knows it. Calhoun couldn't handle the idea that you might outgrow him." Her voice was sharp with loyalty, the kind I hadn't felt in a long time. She was right. I hadn't stayed at Lyncrest because it was the best opportunity. I stayed because I believed in the work, in the clients, in the team. But somewhere along the way, that loyalty turned into leverage I didn't know they were holding. "The way he did it," I said, my voice catching, like I'd committed corporate treason for updating my resume. Leah exhaled. "It's not your loss, Owen. It's his, and maybe this is your out." Before I could respond, a notification buzzed. A new message from Halcyon Digital's VP of Strategy. "Can we move our final discussion to 2 p.m. today?" My heart stuttered. Just yesterday, I was wondering if they'd even respond to my application. Now, they wanted to accelerate the conversation. Maybe Leah was right. Perhaps I hadn't been pushed out. Maybe I was being set free. That afternoon, the air felt sharper, like it knew something was about to shift. I ironed my best Navy suit, the one I'd bought 3 years ago, in anticipation of a promotion that never came. It still fits. Too well, actually, like a reminder that nothing had changed except my tolerance. By 1:45 p.m., I was downtown, standing in front of the towering Halcyon Digital headquarters. 3 sun-drenched glass and modern steel floors perched right above Lady Bird Lake. It looked nothing like Lyncrest's outdated beige walls and flickering fluorescence. Inside, the lobby hummed with quiet productivity. A receptionist with a tablet greeted me by name and offered a cold brew on tap. I declined, but couldn't help thinking, this place breathes differently. The elevator opened on the 22nd floor, where Reed Lawson, Halcyon's VP of Strategy, stood waiting. "Owen Mercer," he said, shaking my hand like he'd already decided something. "Glad you could make it on short notice." Reed was in his early 50s, sharp but approachable, with a presence that didn't need volume to command a room. We'd worked together years ago when I managed the Cobalt Securities account when Halcyon was still a vendor. "I heard what happened at Lyncrest," he said as we walked into a corner office filled with natural light and clean design. "And I'll be honest, we weren't expecting that call from their HR rep this morning telling us you'd been let go." I blinked. "They called you?" "Less than 2 hours after your exit. Said you were no longer representing their accounts and that they'd be taking point with Cobalt until a replacement was assigned." Of course. They were trying to salvage what they knew they were about to lose. Cobalt was one of their last big-name accounts, and I wondered why it hadn't jumped ship already. "But that's not why we asked you to come in early," Reed continued, settling into a chair across from mine. "Truthfully, we've been closely watching Lyncrest's performance on that account. The creative work? Solid. But the account management? It's been sliding except where you've been involved." I stayed quiet, but my pulse quickened. This wasn't small talk. Reed leaned forward. "Owen, 3 months ago, our leadership team started exploring options. Agencies that could handle our multi-platform expansion strategy. You know us. You understand our brand voice. You anticipate our needs. When did your name surface on our radar? The timing felt right." I tried to keep my posture relaxed, but the room suddenly felt warmer. "We want to offer you a director of partner strategy role. You'd oversee all external agency relationships and help us build an internal client strategy team from the ground up." I blinked again, slower this time. "That's a significant offer." Reed smiled. So is your track record. We've seen how you retain business and read clients before they speak. You've saved more accounts than most people know how to manage. It's time you were compensated accordingly. He slid a folder across the glass table. My name was typed cleanly on the front. I opened it and stopped breathing for a moment. The salary offer was nearly double what I had ever made at Lyncrest. The benefits package included stock options, performance bonuses, and 6 weeks of PTO. I looked up. This is beyond generous. No, Reed said evenly. It's market rate for someone who's been undervalued for too long. I exhaled slowly. There was a silence that followed, but not an awkward one. It was the kind of pause that lets something sacred settle in the air. Validation. I'd like to take the evening to review everything, I said. Of course, he nodded. We'd expect nothing less. As I left the building with the offer letter, I walked slower than usual. I wanted to feel each step. I tried to remember its weight, this shift, this power. For years, I'd been asking to be seen. Now, I was being sought after. The offer letter sat open on my kitchen table that evening, glowing under the pendant light like it knew it had changed everything. Reed had said I could take the night to review it, but truthfully, my decision was already made. Still, I gave it the time it deserved, not out of hesitation, but out of respect for what this moment meant. While I reread every line, my phone buzzed nonstop. Word had spread quickly through the old halls of Lyncrest, as it always does when drama brews. Texts came in from former coworkers, some offering support, others fishing for details. I ignored most of them except one. Emergency all-staff meeting right after you left. Calhoun told everyone you were let go for breach of loyalty and reminded us that Lyncrest rewards those who stay committed. It was from Danny, a junior account exec who had always looked up to me. The irony in his message was so sharp that it practically dripped. Rewards? I'd been loyal for 8 years. I'd carried the revenue load, trained new hires, and cleaned up messes no one even saw. My loyalty had only been rewarded with excuses and budget constraints, while senior execs installed espresso machines in their corner offices. Later that night, another message came in. This one is from Rosa, Lyncrest's receptionist. He's been locked in meetings for hours. Har looks like they've aged 5 years in one day. Cobalt called 3 times. The vibe is full-on panic. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The silence said everything. At 9:12 p.m., an unknown number rang. I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won out. Mr. Mercer? A woman's voice asked. This is Vanessa Hardin, chair of Lyncrest's executive board. That made me sit up straighter. Board-level players didn't call former employees unless they were scrambling. I understand a decision was made earlier today regarding your employment. I want to meet with you tomorrow to discuss it. Her voice was composed, but the undertone was unmistakable. Damage control. I appreciate the call, I said carefully, but I've already accepted a position elsewhere. There was a pause. May I ask where? I don't think that would be appropriate to share at this time, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Another pause. Then, if this is about compensation, we can revisit your requests retroactively. The board recognizes your contributions to Lyncrest's growth. Now that the ship was tilting, they wanted to reassign value to the person they threw overboard. With respect, Vanessa, I said, it's not just about compensation. It's about what that compensation represents. Recognition. Respect. Things I requested 4 times and never received until I became a threat. She went quiet again. Then, I tried once more. We'd still like to meet, if only for closure. I agreed. Not for them, but for me. Closure wasn't something they could offer, but it was something I could take. As I ended the call, I glanced at Halcyon's offer again. The weight of it wasn't just financial, it was symbolic. Lyncrest had seen me as expendable until they saw what others were willing to offer. The next morning, I walked into the Lyncrest building, not as an employee, but as a visitor. The front desk felt foreign, as if I were stepping into someone else's life. Rosa blinked in surprise when she saw me. You're here to meet with Miss Hardin? She asked, half whispering. I nodded, just tying up loose ends. She leaned in, lowering her voice. Everyone's been talking. What they did to you, it wasn't right. You were the best of us. Her words stayed with me in the elevator. The conference room was already prepped when I arrived. Sunlight spilled across a sleek oak table where Vanessa Hardin, the chairwoman of the executive board, sat waiting, back straight, folder in hand. Silver-haired, composed, sharp-eyed she looked like the woman who made 7-figure decisions over breakfast. Mr. Mercer, she greeted, extending her hand. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I took a seat, spine tall. Of course. She opened the folder. I've reviewed your personnel file. 8 years. Exceptional client growth. Performance reviews that read like case studies. And 4 documented salary adjustment requests known approved. Her tone was professional but had a current of restrained concern beneath it. I was not made aware of this pattern, she added. I raised an eyebrow. I assumed compensation decisions were reviewed at the board level. Major changes, yes, she said. But department heads have discretion within a certain threshold. It appears Mr. Calhoun exercised that discretion, aggressively. She sighed, then continued. There's also no official policy against interviewing elsewhere. No, there's not, I said. But the word used was disloyal, like I'd betrayed the company by having ambition. Vanessa closed the folder and folded her hands. The board would like to extend an offer of reinstatement, with the compensation you previously requested, plus a 10% increase and a promotion to Senior Director of Accounts. I nodded, slow and measured. That's generous, but unnecessary. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You've accepted another role? I didn't confirm or deny. I've accepted a future where I don't have to beg for respect. She studied me for a long moment, then asked quietly, What could Lyncrest have done differently to retain you? The question surprised me. I let the silence settle before answering. Recognize my value before I have to look elsewhere to find it, I said plainly. Loyalty works both ways. I gave this company everything, and in return, I was treated as disposable the moment I looked beyond the walls they built around me. Vanessa nodded slowly, almost solemnly. A fair assessment. She stood, extending her hand again. Whatever comes next, I wish you well. As I walked out of Lyncrest one final time, the automatic doors slid closed behind me, but they didn't feel like a goodbye. They felt like a release. The following Monday arrived with an energy I hadn't felt in years, not nerves, not anxiety, purpose. Half an hour early, I walked into Halcyon Digital's headquarters at 8:15 a.m., wearing a tailored gray suit and a mindset sharper than ever. The receptionist greeted me with a smile, and an HR packet was already prepared. No cardboard box, no escort, just a clean slate and a glass-walled office overlooking the water. Everything had been arranged. My name was already on the door. Owen Mercer, Director of Partner Strategy. Inside, a welcome package sat neatly on the desk, a personalized notebook, a gift card for a local cafe, and a handwritten note from Reed Lawson. Welcome aboard. Let's build something that lasts. By 9 a.m., I was in a team huddle with 5 direct reports, sharp, energized marketers waiting weeks for leadership to arrive. Some had known me from Cobalt projects. Others were new faces. All were watching closely. This isn't just a title shift, I told them. We're not just managing partners, we're shaping how Halcyon tells its story to the world. And that starts today. They nodded. The weight of my words didn't come from volume, it came from clarity. I knew what it felt like to be poorly led. I was going to do the opposite. Later that afternoon, Reed called me into a strategy session with Halcyon's senior team. I assumed it would be a high-level onboarding. Instead, it was the beginning of something far more impactful. We've got a decision to make, said Halcyon's Chief Marketing Officer, Liza Tran. Lyncrest's contract is up for renewal next month. After everything that's happened and with you now on our side, we're reassessing the relationship. I sat back, composed. Reed jumped in. We want your input. You've worked with them. You know how they function internally, what they deliver and what they don't. I took a moment before answering. I knew what they expected. Some quiet takedown, a list of everything Lyncrest had done wrong. But I wasn't interested in revenge for the sake of drama. If you're asking for my honest input, I said slowly, evaluate them like any agency, on performance, on consistency. How well do they scale with your vision? Nothing more, nothing less. The room fell quiet. Liza nodded, spoken like someone who's moved past it. The evaluation process unfolded over the next 48 hours. Halcyon's procurement and strategy teams gathered competitive bids from 3 other firms. I recused myself from the final vote to avoid bias, but Reed kept me in the loop on progress. By Thursday morning, the decision was unanimous. At 11:03 a.m., the email went out. I saw a draft before it was sent, but didn't touch it. It was crisp, corporate, clean. Subject: Marketing Transition Announcement. After carefully evaluating our evolving brand strategy, Halcyon Digital has selected a new agency partner moving forward. Effective immediately, we will begin transitioning our account to Marrow & Company, with oversight provided by Owen Mercer, Director of Partner Strategy. We appreciate our partnership with Lyncrest Media Group and will work to ensure a respectful and complete handoff by the end of business Friday. I imagined the moment that email landed in Calhoun's inbox. I pictured him blinking at his screen, pulse ticking upward, then realizing he'd lost more than just an employee. He'd lost 27% of Lyncrest's annual revenue because he underestimated the quiet man in the gray suit. But I didn't smile. Not exactly. Because the real victory wasn't in watching Lyncrest panic. It was knowing I hadn't needed to lift a finger. I hadn't made phone calls. I hadn't trashed them behind closed doors. I'd moved forward. And that forward motion spoke louder than anything else ever could. Later that evening, I received a LinkedIn notification. A connection request from Rosa Alvarez, Lyncrest's receptionist. I accepted it, and moments later, a message popped up. It's chaos over here. 3 account managers have updated their resumes. Cobalt's already meeting with Marrow. Karma's working overtime. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. You did it right. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. Thank you for always treating me like more than a name on a badge. Wishing you better days ahead. Taking the high road didn't feel passive. It felt powerful. And I realized then, I didn't just walk away from Lyncrest. I graduated from it. 1 year later, looking out from my office as our team launched Halcyon's largest ever partner campaign, I thought back to that moment in Calhoun's office. The accusation, the insult, the arrogance. It was supposed to be my undoing. Instead, it was the beginning of everything. It's strange how peace doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it comes quietly, like the first morning when nothing is expected of you except to begin again. 1 week after Lyncrest collapsed under the weight of its arrogance, I was already deep into my new life. I had a real office now. Not a shared cubicle was shoved near the break room, but a space with a view, a door, and a team that wanted to build something together. My nameplate was crisp. My calendar is full. Not with pointless check-ins or optics-based meetings, but with strategy sessions, innovation briefs, and honest conversations about growth. At 9 a.m., Reed introduced me to Halcyon's executive partners as the final addition to the leadership team for our multi-agency transition. He knows what quality looks like, Reed said, and more importantly, he knows what loyalty should feel like. The room clapped not out of courtesy, but conviction. I took my seat, not as someone who had moved on, but as someone who had risen. We outlined the final phase of Lyncrest's offboarding, and I assigned the handoff protocol to a junior coordinator. No malice, no lingering bitterness. It's just a process, a system, a new standard. At 10:30, I entered a glass-walled meeting room and led my team through our first collaborative session. By 11:15, we were sketching campaigns that would redefine Halcyon's partner ecosystem. The past didn't weigh me down anymore. It had shaped me, but it didn't own me. This wasn't just a fresh start. It was the beginning of the version of me that Lyncrest never believed in because they were too busy protecting their privilege to invest in potential. And now, that potential had finally found its place. People say loyalty is a virtue, and maybe it is, but I've learned the hard way that loyalty without boundaries is self-betrayal. For years, I gave everything I had to a company that couldn't see past its entitlement. I waited, I compromised, I convinced myself that being patient was the same as being valued. It wasn't. It took being fired, humiliated, and cast out to realize the truth. Value isn't proven by how long you stay. It's confirmed by how well you walk away when you're no longer respected. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. Clarity to see my worth, courage to choose me, and the conviction to move forward without apology. And when I finally did, everything changed. The opportunity I had been waiting for wasn't ahead of mate, was waiting on the other side of letting go. So, if you're watching this and stuck in a place that praises loyalty but punishes ambition, ask yourself, is your loyalty to them costing you your loyalty to yourself? Because success isn't about proving them wrong. It's about finally living like you were right about yourself all along. And that changes everything.